Alliance candidate for Fremantle.
Yay!
Just before going any further, I'd also just like to mention and recognise that we are at the meeting on the lands of the Wajak people and pay respects to elders past, present and future. Obviously tonight is a celebration and a launch of our campaign. It's a celebration of the alternative to the world that we live in. And it's also a celebration in self-restraint. I didn't push Sam off the stage for having said half of the things that my presentation actually might have said, but there we go, there we go. It's obviously very good to have so many people here tonight. And we are among friends, and I wouldn't try to convince people here tonight that the world needs to change, otherwise you wouldn't really be here, right? But I think the major challenge that we do face is to be able to come together, motivate ourselves, provide that information, and get out there and convince broader layers of people that that change can happen. And that politics is not just being rah-rah, it's not about being about what you're against, but in actual fact, we can put forward an incredibly positive, practical future plan for society, which really goes to the core of what people's needs are and is environmentally sustainable. Obviously, we can't talk about solutions unless we do address the issues that we face, and as Sam mentioned, we do face in Australia and around the world growing political, social, economic and environmental crises. These are not coincidental, they are a byproduct of the capitalist society that we live in Australia and around the world. A society which says that greed is good, accumulation of wealth into the fewer hands somehow makes sense, and that we as individuals are incapable of making that change, and that we should in natural fact be competing with one another on a regular basis for our basic means of survival. This has led, as Sam mentioned, to an increase in global inequality as well as in Australia, increased number of people homeless, there's greater and greater job insecurity. We live in a society in Australia where we have already the means to go to 100% renewables. That technology already exists. And yet we have finance ministers and environmental ministers giving approval for incredibly environmentally destructive projects in new coal, new gas, and basically locking in fossil fuels into the foreseeable future. All these things are about fitting an existing financial model which benefits big corporations, not about identifying and working on what the community needs and what the environment needs. Obviously this then flows into politics, where the two major parties in Australia are so wedded to the fossil fuel industry and the corporate sector in general. Where I remember someone said, put it the other day, it's like every 4 years we change the name of the party in power, or we change the name of the government, but the policies roughly are always the same. And there's a growing frustration in the community, but I feel like one of the main things that people face is this idea of, yeah, well, what do you do about it? And I feel that really cuts to the core of the culture that is so essential to a capitalist society, whereby if decisions are made in the interest of a tiny handful, how do we ensure that the vast majority of people who actually produce that wealth, that creates all that wealth in our society, feel like they can do nothing about it? And from the day we're born, the day we go to school, we're told to compete with each other. We read history of superhuman beings that came along and fixed everything for everybody. So we feel like we're almost waiting for someone else to do things, making ourselves feel like we're spectators in that process. But generally just feeling like there is no society. I mean, that's one of the main quotes from Maggie Thatcher back in the day. There's no such thing as society. We are all individuals. But we're here tonight to obviously demonstrate that we don't believe in that at all. And in actual fact, around the world, more and more people are coming to the realization that individually you cannot fix anything. Throughout history, individuals play parts, but in actual fact, it was the community, the millions of people that came together that made real change happen. So we almost need to reclaim that history and re-inject into the public domain this idea of individually you can do very little, but when you take the I and you replace it with a we in that scenario, we are the society. And we can do amazing things when we start working together and we start acting that way. Yeah. So obviously, the Socialist Alliance is contesting this election. We are a small party, but we feel like we have something that is incredibly substantial to add to this political debate, but we also run to win. But the things that we feel are absolutely crucial for this campaign is to put forward a very clear analysis as to how the world got to where it is now. Our economy is orientated towards the interests of big business. The vast majority of people, as I said, don't feel like they can make any contribution. And at the same time, the media in Australia, which is all corporately run, won't tell us that corporations are the issue. They won't tell us that corporate greed is the issue. And in actual fact, they spent a lot of time convincing us that our interests are pitted against one another's. And like the racist scapegoating of refugees and Aboriginal communities is just the most extreme version of that. You know, like we have a situation in Australia where 2 women a week are being killed in domestic violence incidences, while at the same time, that never is on the front page of the newspaper. You know, there isn't a national crisis to deal with this issue. But whenever there's an opportunity to slag off members of the community, to slag off refugees and Aboriginal communities, they don't hesitate. You know, so we actually need to build up that collective solidarity to fight back for that. We believe that a very different society is possible. We believe that, you know, when the community realizes just the fact that we are a community, and then demands that the resources that exist in our society are used towards meeting the needs of the community and achieving environmental sustainability, we'll have that change happen. So some of the things we're taking into this election, we want free education, we want free healthcare, we want a decent public transport system, we want an immediate transition towards 100% renewables. We want people to have access to decent public housing. Housing is a right. And ironically, a tragic irony is that in Australia and around the world, there are more vacant houses than there are homeless people. There's absolutely no need for this situation to continue. We want to end all anti-worker and anti-union bills and legislation and allow people to collectively organise to fight back for their rights. We want equal pay for women. We want equal marriage rights to be put immediately. None of this plebiscite business, which is all about going through the process, spending heaps of money, and it's non-binding anyway. The vast majority of people in Australia already believe in equal marriage. You know, in a democracy, that would have already been put in place. We need to fight for that democratic culture to exist. When people talk about public health care, talk about renewable energy, there's always this question of, well, how are you actually going to pay for that? Now, it's not a question in Australia or around the world to ask, where is the money going to come from? The question is, where is that money going now? Right? We already live in a society where the resources there, the material exists to have this transition made. But it does exist in the bank accounts in the hands of a very small number of corporations, which are not accountable to the community. You know, the only way that we're actually going to have to see that change happen is when enough people, the majority of people, actively participate in reclaiming that wealth that they themselves have produced and putting it to human and social needs.
Not submarines.
Not submarines, exactly that. And obviously, the Socialist Alliance is a small party. But even if we were in government, even if we had the majority of parliament, that wouldn't be enough to actually achieve the society in which we want to achieve. Because so long as a handful of people or a minority have decision making, then that's not a social transformation. That still says, you go away and fix things and we'll sit as spectators. We need the active participation of the members of the community so that decision making can be taken back to the grassroots, to the shop floor, to the street level, so that those communities can identify what their needs are, and they're actually in the best place to meet those needs. So we need to significantly democratize our society and take away decision-making power from minorities and bring that to a local level. So people with that sort of in mind might ask, why are we running in this election? And obviously Socialist Alliance is still very much a small party. I mean, our main thing is to say, we are running in this election to win. But before we win, the actual campaign itself is a fantastic platform to get these ideas out and to look people in the eye and say, this is a practical way in which you can, in the here and the now, take action. You can vote for us, you can join us, you can letterbox for us, you can raise these ideas. And even in joining in this debate, we are entering into what has up until quite recently been the realm of either pro-corporate parties or parties that don't have a clear anti-corporate agenda or a socialistic agenda. You know, there are parties out there who mean well, but they don't have a vision as to how society can fundamentally change. So we feel like we are actively injecting that into the debate. One of the things that is different to the Socialist Alliance, for example, is our claim that we need to bring democratic ownership of the banking and the mining industry to fund the transition of renewable energies. You know, you can't go around the mining industry. You know, they pay the election campaigns of the politicians. They give grants to the universities. They're friends with the people who own the private media in this country. You can't go around them, they're too big. We have to go straight through them, and only an active majority can do that. You know, which is obviously much more than us, but we want to be part of that process. We are running in this election to also raise this idea of accountability. Now, a lot of people who are elected to Parliament today, from the day they're elected, they get plush gigs, they wear suits, they have big salaries, and they get massive pensions at the end of it. And a lot of people have a natural cynicism to that. They say, no matter what you say now, you're just going to go away and you're going to do the total opposite. Bronwyn Bishop, for example, is now the disgraced former Speaker of the House of Representatives, and she's on like $9,000 a fortnight as a pension. Now this is someone that was proven to do wrong by the community and now has this plush gig for the rest of her life. In Socialist Alliance, we contest this election and we say, we stand as a party, whenever someone's a candidate, we say that if elected, we will take home only the salary of a skilled worker, and we will donate the rest to progressive causes. Saying that, believing that, and putting our hands into that, we can then turn around and say, and who else says that? Who else is willing to make that same commitment? And I bet you a lot of them won't. So again, raising the expectations of the community. We also believe in accountability, so one of the policies of the Socialist Alliance is to say we want to see a mechanism by which people who are elected have to go back to the community that voted for them, so every 3 to 6 months, deciding on what the community wants, and they have to explain what they've done. And if the community is not happy with that, they can immediately recall that person and replace them by somebody else. So public office is all about responsibility, it's not about perks, but it's also about accountability. You're ensuring that the community's will is being reflected in those decisions that are being made. So, if elected, what can a socialist in parliament do? Recognizing that there's still, an elite and a minority in our society. Well, we can ask those questions that governments or ministers would prefer not to have been asked in the first place. We can raise the profile of the community groups out in our society and say, these are the issues, these are the groups that are active in the community fighting for these, and you can join that. But also it's another thing where a lot of people believe that socialism as a concept is incredibly unpopular. But if the vote, even, if nothing else, the vote for a socialist candidate was going up and up and up, that would beg the question, well, what is socialism? Why is this thing becoming more and more popular? So it creates a melting pot of ideas, A lot of people who might say vote for the Greens because they have progressive politics will say, well, that's the practical thing to do. And part of that is because they're so used to parties horse trading with their preferences. I better vote for this group because otherwise, you never know where your vote's going to end up. Another key principle for the Social Alliance is to say our preferences go from most progressive to least progressive. So in the case that I'm not elected, Fremantle, on the odd chance, our preferences will go to the next most progressive candidate. So there's no issue with that being like a fallen vote or anything like that. One thing I'd really encourage people to take on is, I'm still a relatively young person, except actually with this birthday, I'm no longer eligible for the youth branch or the youth wing of our party, but I'm still young. And deep down, we're all young. Yeah. But there is a really important place in this struggle for young people to take on. I mean, young people are generally the first victims of any decision to cut funding because they're known, like people who have a parliamentary sort of outlook know that young people can't vote for them or vote them out. But young people will inherit the society in which is being created today. And so young people and their voices need to be at the forefront of that struggle and that change. Just before I finish up, one of the things I would obviously give a major plug for people to not only be involved in this campaign, but also get involved in the Socialist Alliance as being part of the overall movement, but having that sort of political program. And I was thinking about this today and sort of reflecting on how I got involved. And Barry's in the audience. But I was in the city, I think I was about a 17-year-old, and I was walking down and I saw a poster or something that was talking about a speak out for Coca-Cola trade unionists in Colombia that were being killed by paramilitary death squads. And walking down Murray Street Mall, I thought, yeah, that's an issue, that's important. I'll go to that, I can see why that's an issue. And I walked by, and it was Barry by himself with a megaphone. And like, when your first impressions are like, fuck, it's gonna be massive, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah, here we go. Like, today was school, tomorrow's the revolution, let's do this. And it was one person, so you can imagine that's a little bit of a downer. But, and so like, it didn't stop him from doing it, right? It didn't stop the passion that came out in Barry, and he was trying to connect with people. And when like you don't really want to commit to something, you sort of like shuffle past, and you're planning how you're just going to keep walking. But then I sort of had this realization, I thought, but everyone else who's walked by has done the same. And that's what's led to there being only one person there. And I thought, shit, if I stop, then I've doubled the size of this rally. And it makes it so much more likely that a third person will stop as well. Is the issue important? Yes. Do you believe that by convincing people to get active, they can get active? Yes. You know, the reason that people aren't active in our society right now is not because they don't know that the issues exist. They don't know, they haven't been motivated to think that they can be part of that solution. So walking on keeps the situation the same. Stopping, turning around, and looking to convince another person to stop as well is what will get that critical number of people actively involved. So I'm encouraged, be inspired by that example. You know, we're more than 2 people here in the room today. This is what progress and success looks like. So yeah, thanks very much, and we'd love to have you part of our campaign for the future.